I am Bartimaeus, and this is my story. The dust of the Jericho road tastes the same every morning, dry, bitter, mixed with the smell of goat dung and crushed fig leaves from the market carts that pass before sunrise. I know this road by its sounds long before the heat of the day arrives. I know the uneven stone where the beggar's mat always slides a little to the left. I know the exact spot where the palm trees break the wind coming down from the hills, because I have sat here, in this same place for so many years that my body has become part of the road itself. I did not choose this life. No man chooses blindness. But somewhere between the womb and the wailing of my first breath, the light was taken from my eyes before I ever knew what light was. My father, Timaeus, may his memory be a blessing, used to say I smiled at shapes I could not have seen, that I turned my face toward the sun, as if I somehow remembered it from a life before this one. Perhaps that memory, buried somewhere in my spirit, is what kept me from despair completely. Or perhaps it was simply stubbornness. The women in the market used to say I had too much of that. There is a particular kind of hunger that comes from begging. Not only the hunger of the stomach, though that gnaws too, especially on the days when the pilgrims are few and the merchants are stingy. It is the hunger of being unseen while sitting in plain sight. People's sandals shuffle past me. Their conversations drift over my head like smoke. Talk of taxes, of Rome, of the temple, of whether the fig harvest will be good this year, and none of it is meant for me. I am furniture to them, a landmark. Just past the blind beggar, they tell each other. Turn toward the gate. I learned to listen the way a shepherd learns to read clouds. The clink of coins told me a merchant was near. The particular rhythm of sandals, quick, uneven, nervous, told me a thief was working the crowd, and I would call out just loud enough to make the poor victim clutch his purse. Children's laughter, closer and lower to the ground, meant I should keep my staff tucked in so no small foot would trip on it. My ears became my eyes, though God knows I would have traded every sound in the world for one true sight of the sky. There were nights, and I will not hide this, for what good is a story that hides the truth, when I sat alone against the city wall after the gates had shut the beggars out for the evening, and I asked the Almighty why. Why me? Why this darkness that never lifted, not even for a breath, not even in dreams, where a man is supposed to be free? I had heard the rabbis argue about it once, passing near my mat, debating whether my blindness was punishment for my sin or my parents' sin. I remember gripping my staff so hard my knuckles ached, wanting to shout, "I am a man, not a riddle for your theology." But I said nothing. A blind beggar does not argue with rabbis. A blind beggar survives. And yet, I will confess this too, somewhere beneath the anger, I never fully let go of hope. It was a small flame, guarded jealously, fed by scraps of stories that traveled the road faster than any caravan. Stories of a teacher from Nazareth. A carpenter's son, they said, who spoke as no man had ever spoken, who touched lepers and they were made clean, who put mud on the eyes of a man born blind like me, and the man saw. I heard that story 3 times from 3 different mouths before I believed it might be more than a traveler's tale grown fat with retelling. I heard he raised a dead girl by simply holding her hand and saying, "Little girl, arise." I heard fishermen from Galilee, calloused men not given to fancy, swear they had seen him calm a storm with nothing but his voice. Something in me, I cannot fully explain it, and I have tried many times, in the years since, recognized him before I ever heard his voice. Call it the Spirit. Call it desperation sharpened into faith. I believe now it was both. I began to say his name to myself in the quiet hours, turning it over like a coin I was saving, not yet ready to spend. Jesus, Son of David. That title, Son of David, was not a small thing to speak. It was a confession that he was the promised one, the king prophesied since Israel first cried out for a deliverer. I did not know theology. I knew hunger and darkness, and a hope I could no longer smother. The day it happened began like every other. The sun rose hot and heavy, and by mid-morning the road out of Jericho was already thick with dust kicked up by an unusual number of feet, more than the ordinary trickle of travelers. I sat up straighter. Something was different. The air itself seemed to carry a charge, the way it does before a storm rolls down from the hills, though the sky, as far as I could tell from the warmth on my face, was clear. "What is it?" I asked a boy who had settled near me to watch the road, his sandals shuffling with the restless energy of youth. "A crowd," he said. "A big one. They say the teacher is with them, the one from Nazareth." My heart did something it had not done in years. It leapt, actually leapt, as though it remembered how to hope faster than my mind could catch up. I strained my ears, and beneath the low roar of the crowd, feet on packed earth, the murmur of 100 conversations, a dog barking somewhere off to the side, I began to hear a voice rise above the others now and then, warm and unhurried, answering questions, and around that voice the crowd seemed to bend like wheat around a strong wind. I did not stop to think. I did not weigh my dignity, though I knew, even as I opened my mouth, that what I was about to do would draw scorn. A blind beggar shouting in a crowd of respectable pilgrims and disciples, it was not done. But confidence is a strange gift. It does not always come from certainty of outcome. Sometimes it comes from having nothing left to lose. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." The words tore out of me louder than I intended, cracking with years of unspent longing. I heard the crowd shift, some laughing, some muttering, and then, sharply, several voices telling me to be quiet, to show some respect, that a man like this teacher had no time for a beggar's noise. Hands may have even shoved at my shoulder. I remember the sting of it, the humiliation curling hot in my chest. But here is the truth I learned in that moment, the truth that has never left me since. The voices that tell you to be silent are rarely the voices of God. I shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me!" I did not care any more who scolded me. I did not care that my voice was hoarse, that dust caught in my throat, that my own neighbors on the road might remember this outburst and mock me for years. Every ounce of my desperate, aching faith poured itself into that cry, because somewhere deep inside me a certainty had taken root. If he passed me by unheard, I might never have another chance. Kings do not linger. Prophets do not return twice down the same dusty road. Then, silence. Not silence in the crowd, exactly, but a kind of stillness rippled through it, like a stone dropped into water, spreading outward. Footsteps stopped, the murmuring dimmed, and into that stillness came a voice, calm, unhurried, entirely unlike the flustered voices around me. "Call him." 2 words. I did not yet know they were his words directly, but I felt the shift in the crowd immediately. The same people who had hissed at me to be quiet now bent toward me with an entirely different tone. "Cheer up! On your feet! He's calling you!" I have relived that instant 1,000 times since, and I do not believe I have ever moved faster in my life. I threw my cloak aside, that same cloak that had been my shelter through cold nights, my collecting cloth for coins thrown my way, nearly everything I owned in this world, and I left it lying in the dust without a second thought. What use is a beggar's cloak to a man who is about to stand before the Messiah? I did not know yet what I was walking into. I only knew I would not walk into it burdened by the past. I stumbled forward, guided by hands I did not know, by voices calling directions. This way, a little to the left, until I stood, breathless, in a space that had gone remarkably quiet. I could feel the crowd's attention like sunlight on my skin. And then I heard him. Close. Not shouting over a crowd now, but speaking directly to me, the way a man speaks to someone he already loves. "What do you want me to do for you?" "I want you to understand," he asked. The Son of David, the one the prophets had waited centuries to see, stood before a blind beggar covered in road dust and asked what I wanted, as though my answer mattered to him more than anything else in that entire crowd. I did not have to explain my life story. I did not have to prove my worth. He already knew, and still he asked, giving me the dignity of my own voice, my own request, spoken aloud before witnesses. My answer came without hesitation, because there was only ever one thing I wanted. "Rabbi, I want to see." There was no incantation, no mud pressed to my eyes this time, no long walk to a pool to wash, only his voice, steady and full of quiet authority that seemed to hold the weight of the very breath that formed the world. "Go," he said. "Your faith has healed you." And then, light. I do not have words sufficient for that moment, though I have spent years searching for them. It was not like waking from sleep. It was like being born a second time, all at once, fully formed, with no gentle easing into it. Color struck me before shape did, a wash of blue so vast and startling I nearly fell to my knees just from the sky alone. I had never known blue could be so enormous, so entirely without edge. Then came the faces, hundreds of them, turned toward me, mouths open, eyes wide, and I realized with a shock that split something open in my chest. I was looking at faces. Human faces. For the first time in my life, I could see a man's expression change from doubt to astonishment right in front of me. And then I saw him. I cannot describe adequately what it is to look, for the very first time your eyes have ever worked, into the face of the one who made your eyes in the first place. He was not what the crowd's descriptions had prepared me for. No armor, no crown, only a dust-worn traveler's robe and eyes that held both the weight of the world's sorrow and a joy that seemed to stretch beyond time itself. He was looking at me the way my father used to look at me before he died, except infinitely more so, as though he had known me before the foundations of the earth, because I understood suddenly and completely he had. I wept, not quiet tears, but the great heaving sobs of a man who has been given back everything at once, his sight, his dignity, his future, his God, all in a single breath. I fell to the ground before him, and when I rose, I did not go back for my cloak. I did not go back to my mat, to my begging spot, to the only trade I had ever known. Scripture says I followed him along the road, and that is exactly what happened. My feet simply would not carry me anywhere else. What was there left in Jericho for me? I had spent my whole life sitting still, waiting for the world to notice me. Now I could see, and the only thing I wanted to look at, forever, was him. I have thought often, in the years since, about that moment when the crowd tried to silence me, how easily I might have obeyed them. How many blessings in this life are lost not because God withholds them, but because we let the voices around us convince us to stop asking. My confidence that day was not born of certainty that he would heal me. I could not have known that. It was born of refusing to let shame have the final word over my need. I had nothing left to protect. And it turns out that is often exactly the condition the Lord is waiting for. Not our strength, but our surrender, wrapped in stubborn, desperate hope. I walked the roads of Judea after that with new eyes, but more than that, with new sight of who God truly is, a God who stops for one voice in a crowd of hundreds, a God who asks what we want, though he already knows, because he delights in hearing us say it. A God whose mercy does not depend on the noise of the crowd, but on the faith of one broken man willing to cry out anyway. To you listening now, wherever your own darkness lies, whatever silence you have accepted as the boundary of your life, I say to you what I have proven with my own eyes. Do not let the crowd silence your cry. He hears, he stops, he asks. And when you answer him honestly, do not be surprised if you too walk away seeing everything and everyone entirely new.
If you have been blessed by this story, subscribe, like, and share it with a friend.